All right, just stop it there. Can you please just stop the intro? Just stop the intro, please. Thank you. We don't have time for intros this week. We don't have time for funny business. We have business to get to. Welcome back to the show. First and foremost, Happy New Year. I'm still your host, Colt McElwain. Now, usually on this show, we talk about last weekend. Who was where, who did what, and I tell you who's number one. But next weekend, very important weekend, we have the 2014 USA Cycling National Championships of Cyclocross. Next weekend, the top riders, the top elite men, elite women from around the country will answer the question for themselves. Who is number one? So this week, it's not rankings, but predictions. My predictions, and if I'm being honest, probably the actual results that will happen. I'm very good at predicting. So, with no further ado, your elite men, your elite women predictions for the national championships. First up, your elite women. We have laid out our top 20 predictions down below. First up, my dark horse pick, that rider that you might not expect to get into the top 20, but I think she will, and that is Amanda Nauman from California. The recently crowned California state champion has been crushing it on the local scene over these last few weeks. I think she is going to have a very good day in Boulder. Skipping ahead to my dark horse pick for the top 10 will be Emma White, the junior rider. She's already won a UCI race this year in Rhode Island. If you're from the East Coast or New England, you know all about her. She's probably not a dark horse pick for you, but on the national scene. First of all, she's going to win the junior national championships for the women on Friday. Look for her to come back on Sunday and put in a top 10 ride. Joining her inside the top 10 will be the big name riders that we've got to know all season long. With the exception of number 8, Rachel Lloyd, the Cal Giant rider, the former Worlds team member who came back late this season. She had a great podium ride in LA. She had a great ride up in Bend. I look for her to crack the top 10. I look for her teammate, Meredith Miller, in 7th, and then Crystal Anthony, number 6, I think, this week after a very strong campaign over the holidays in Europe. Moving on now to your top 5. These are the elite of the elite. These are the women who will be making the race at the front. First up, in number 5, I am picking the Little Badger, Katie Anthony. She's had a pretty good season. She's had some really great races at the national championships before. She's been national champion for U23. For junior, she was 2nd in the elite race just a couple of years ago against Katie Compton. But if we're being honest, she hasn't quite had that kind of season. She's been on the podium here and there. She's had some strong rides. I think on Sunday, we're going to see number 5 for her. Now, number 4, another young rider, another former junior national champion on the mountain bike is Chloe Woodruff. I think she is going to have a very good ride for the Arizona rider. If you guys have been following along all season, she's been out there. If you guys remember back in Colorado in October at the Reservoir, at the Boulder Cup, she had very strong days. 2nd place there to Katie Compton. She's been still racing locally in Arizona. Very strong. I look for her to fight for the podium. Number 3. I'm going to go Elle Anderson. The revelation of 2013-14. She's won races. She's been on the podium almost every weekend. I think she's going to do it again here. This past few weeks over in Europe, she's really come into her own as a rider there on the very technical courses. She's learned how to handle her bike. You know she has the engine. I think she's going to be fighting for it. Number 2, Georgia Gould. Where did Georgia Gould come from? I haven't talked about Georgia Gould. I guess I talked about her once on the show all season long, but she didn't race cyclocross. I don't even remember if she raced Vegas. But Georgia Gould has this little bronze medal in her basement somewhere from the Olympic freaking Games. She's an Olympic medalist, and she's a cyclocross superstar. I know she's had up and downs in the past, but if she shows up at the national championship, she's already been racing in Colorado these past couple of weeks. She's been very, very good. I think she's going to be right up there. I think she's going to be the last one to be dropped by Katie, and I think she will take the silver medal in 2nd place. Number 1 this weekend, number 1 all weekend, your new overall World Cup champion, taking her 10th consecutive national championship this Sunday will be Katie Compton. Katie freaking Compton, we talk about it every year. Could there be flats? Could there be mechanicals? It really doesn't matter. Katie is so good. She is so strong. When she cares about this day, she will be your Stars and Stripes jersey winner. Moving on to your men's predictions. First up, like the women, my dark horse pick. The rider I think will make the top 20 that you guys might not be looking at, and that is Colorado's own Tim Allen, the feedback sports rider. First of all, I think he's going to win the single speed national championships on Wednesday. Then I think he's going to come back and have a very good ride on Sunday to crack the top 20. Jumping ahead to my next dark horse pick, this time inside the top 10, I'm going number 9, Stephen Hyde. Now, if we had talked earlier in the year, there's no way Stephen Hyde would have been a dark horse. This is the guy who beat our defending national champion, Jonathan Page, to win his first ever UCI race back in, I think it was October. But since then, he had a bad injury to his knee. He basically didn't ride a bike for close to a month, I think it was. Came back, has been training, did a very strong comeback race in North Carolina. He's been putting in training and training and training over the holidays. I look for him to be back and in form for a top 10 ride. Now, joining Stephen inside the top 10, going backwards first to number 10, I think it's going to be Alan Krugoff. Boulder's own, a very strong rider. Look for him to make the selection early on, be pushing the pace, but at the end of the day, I still see him finishing 10th. Jumping over Stephen Hyde to number 8, I see Troy Wells. He's over those back injuries, riding very strong, had some great podium rides in North Carolina. Again, some good training over the holidays. I think he makes your top 10. I think Jamie Driscoll, it's hard for me to say this, but Jamie Driscoll, I see him in 7th. He's had a great year. He's been one of those guys. He is a big game player like no other when it comes to the national championships. I mean, he's come out of nowhere to finish on the podium before. He's been riding well. He won a local race in Colorado last weekend. But when I look at all the other riders in the mix, I still see him coming up 7th. I got Zach McDonald finding his legs again. I got him going 6th. Now, moving on to your top 5. First up, the rider I think will be number 5 this weekend is your defending national champion, your 4 or 5-time former cyclocross national champion, Jonathan Page. He just hasn't had a great year. I mean, he didn't have a good year last year, and he still came back to win the national championships. A bit of a surprise for most people. This year, I don't even think he has that in him. I think he's going to be good. I think he'll be in the mix, but ultimately, I see him in 5th place. Number 4, Ryan Trebon. This was a tough one. He's either going to be 1st or he's going to be 4th. There's no in-between with Ryan. This is a race that nobody's racing for the podium. A guy like Ryan especially, who really doesn't ever race for the podium, he's going to go for it. He's going to be in the mix. But I flipped a coin and it came down to Ryan Trebon, 4th place. Number 3 is Danny Summerhill. We talked about Jamie Driscoll being a big game player. This guy's no different. He's however many time former junior national champion, former U23 national champion. More importantly, he's from Boulder. He races very well in front of the home crowd, and he has done very, very well on these courses. Not just this year, but in the past. He's been 2nd on this course. He's been 3rd on this course. He has the legs. I think he's going to make the podium. Top 2. If it's a good thing. We know the names, right? It's going to be either Jeremy Powers or Tim Johnson. It's going to be Tim Johnson or Jeremy Powers. They've been back and forth all season long. I got something written down here. I don't know if I'm... Let's think about it for a second here. This year, who's been the best all year? What, Jeremy Powers? I mean, he won the USA Cycling Pro CX overall calendar, but only by 26 points. If you look at the races that matter, the big races, the C1s, Tim Johnson's been better. He won in Cincinnati, he won in Iowa, he won in Bend. When you look at the national championships in the past, we talk about, Driscoll and Summerhill and these guys that show up when it matters. Tim Johnson is a 3-time national champion. He's been on the podium so many times. Then you look at a guy like Powers, a lot of people would argue that Powers should have more national titles. As a junior, as a U23, as an elite, it took him forever until he finally won in 2012. If the weather's warm, if it's dry on this course, I think it's Jeremy. I mean, we saw he already won on this course back in October. If it's freezing, if it's really cold, I think it's Tim. If it's muddy, if it's snowy, if it's icy, I think it's Tim. Knowing what I know about the weather, knowing what I know about what these guys have done all year, it still doesn't really make a difference. This doesn't come down to your mind. It comes down to your gut. And when I close my eyes and I picture the podium in Boulder for the national championships, there's only one guy I see on the top step this year, and that's Jeremy Powers. I think number 2, Tim Johnson, I think it's going to be close. I think Tim will go early. I think Tim will have a lead. I think Jeremy will have to close it down. But ultimately, on that last lap, I see Tim Johnson 2nd, and I see Jeremy Powers, one hand in the air, crooked shoulder, bawling his eyes out, your national champion. Thank you guys for joining us. Those are my predictions. Now, I am the smartest man in the world, so they're probably correct, but you guys might know something too. So go down below here in the comment section. I want to hear from you guys. Who is your dark horse pick for the top 20? Who am I leaving out? Who do you guys think is going to be in the top 10 that I'm leaving out? And pick your podium. If you guys can pick, let's say, the top 5 elite men and elite women, if any of you guys get it right 100%, well, we'll get like some sort of goodie basket for you. But go ahead. I want to hear what you guys have to think. Don't forget, of course, you can tune in and watch the races live all day on Sunday right here on BTB TV. We will be bringing you live coverage of the races. I still want to change my picks. That's it. It's done. The show is over. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you from Boulder,